Welcome everybody to Porn and AI, Legal and Community Implications. I am Dr. Chantel Tibbles, and I am here today as your host and General Corey D. Silverstein moderator. This event is part of the Legal Impact series brought to you by Silverstein Legal and everybody's favorite and most stunning and stellar attorney in our community, Corey D. Silverstein. So today we are going to be talking about AI, which is not exactly new, but it's on the rise. Artificial intelligence is currently having a cultural and commercial moment, dominating headlines and inspiring new product launches. But what does this mean for adult entertainment specifically? In this special event today, we are going to talk about issues related to AI, including emerging opportunities, potential community implications, and associated legal rights and responsibilities. We have with us here two amazing guests, as well as Corey D. Silverstein himself. So without further ado, I think that I would like to have our guests introduce themselves first. Elena St. James, who are you? What do you do? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am known as OnlyFans' favorite MILF. I started this industry very late in the game at age 54. And, you know, a lot of it's luck and hard work. Became very successful in this realm. And I have always been interested in what's next. And I heard about AI and it's and some of it working into this kind of influencer realm several months ago. And just like back in 95 or 96, when I first heard about the internet, and I thought, this is going to change things. And I knew, and I have some background with that, but when I heard about AI and then I heard about this discussion, I thought I really want in on it because I've got some thoughts. And so here I am.
Fantastic. It's so good to have you here. Yes, it's amazing. Mark Schechter, who are you? What do you do? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I still haven't figured out who I am yet, so I don't know if we'd get into that.
You're the best. That's who you are.
Mark Schechter, owner of ATMLA, Adult Talent Managers. It's a talent agency for talent in our space. I've been doing that now for 11 years. Been in the industry now for, gosh, almost a quarter of a century. Did all kinds of various aspects before owning an agency, including affiliate marketing, sales, distribution of production. I was handled the back end of a very small production company for 10, 12 years, and then decided to buy an agency for an exit strategy. Didn't work out too well. I'm still at it. So why am I here? I'm here because Corey asked me to be here. He got wind of a project that I've got myself involved in that is AI related. So I decided, why not? I'll throw my 2 cents in here. I'm, not an AI expert at any means. I'm still trying to figure out how to push those buttons from a user aspect, but luckily at this stage, I don't really have to push those buttons anymore. But just finding actual use cases for AI as it relates into the adult space has intrigued me. I will segue real quickly and just say, I've ventured off into the Web3 space for the last couple of years, into crypto and metaverse and gaming and that whole sector as well. So there's a lot of synergy within technology right now, how it's just exploding as I saw it 25 years ago. It resulted me pivoting at the age of 40. So I see this as an entry into some unknown territory as it relates to our industry, and definitely want to talk about concerns and where this might be going.
Fantastic. I mean, I think you speak for a lot of people in our community when you say that, I don't really know. Like, we don't really know what's the concerns, what are the opportunities, what's going on. And just like Elena said, this definitely feels like we're at a crux, high point, turning point, something like that. So there's a lot of possibility and a lot of unknowns yet again in our community and in our world. It's exciting and daunting. And, you know, as this adult entertainment industry that we are, this is what we do. We find new things and we dive in before anybody else. So, not to forget the belle of the ball, last but not least, let's hear from Corey D. Silverstein. Corey, who are you? What do you do? What can you tell us about Silverstein Legal? And what can you tell us about our sponsor for today's event, Loyal Fans?
Yes, first I have to thank Loyal Fans for sponsoring today's event. For those of you that haven't visited Loyal Fans, they've got a really awesome platform going where you can kind of have like an all-in-one tool for your social media and your fan style website, upload your clips, all that fine jazz. So thank you, Loyal Fans, for sponsoring us today. Of course, thank you, Chantel, for moderating today's presentation. And Elena and Mark, thank you both for being here. You are both wonderful, dear friends. Mark, you've been around. I think you and Colin actually could have a contest for who's been in the industry longer, but it's
No, Steve gets a vote in there.
okay. There's a lot of you guys that, you know, cough up dust in here today, so that's really awesome.
Easy, Corey. You're going to be coughing up dust soon.
No. And then Elena, it's amazing to see your incredible growth that you've been having, and so congratulations to that. For those of you who don't know, we launched this special program. This was a concept that Chantel and I came up with. The purpose of it was to have a open and free conversation where we could provide some legal information to all of you about the hot topics that were going on. For those of you that don't know, I've been in the adult entertainment industry now for more than 15 years. myadultattorney.com is my main website, but it's pretty easy to get a hold of me. I'm not going to go too much further in my introduction because we already are moving on time here, and I want to get right into the awesome topic that we picked out today, which is all about AI. This presentation is actually something that I've been getting just inquiry after inquiry. It's incredible that I've seen this monumental shift in the industry where now it's just email after email, people asking questions about AI, wanting to launch AI businesses, wanting to add to their AI, portfolio or planning for the future, and the list just goes on. So we actually did a live presentation for those of you that were at XBiz Amsterdam, and it was incredible. We packed the room wall to wall, and we were actually asked to do another one, and because a lot of people couldn't make it to XBiz Amsterdam, and so this is why we picked this topic. And I wanted to pick two speakers who have a tremendous amount of insight into this, especially since we're going to have a lot of commentary today from someone both as a business owner and of course as a content creator. So I'm really excited about this and looking forward to sharing all this info with you guys.
So Corey, to start us off, if you had to articulate succinctly, what do you think are the 2, 3, maybe 4 main issues that people are asking you about concerning AI?
Yeah, there's two major issues that are coming up with AI. One is, of course, content creators' rights. Content creators are trying to figure out, okay, in this new AI world, what rights have I already given away? What rights do I need to be concerned about? And where is this going? Because frankly, with the way I'm seeing AI evolve at the speed of lightning here, I've seen people who are already in the process of launching tools that can basically create an entire performance with as little as a picture of someone. And the questions that come in that keep pouring in are like, where am I going with this? How do I protect myself? What can I do with it? And then, of course, we have the business operators. We have people like Mark Schechter who are launching incredible new products. And I believe actually Steve Lightspeed, who's here, is also in the process of launching a really cool product too. And there's so many people that are getting into this now, and they're saying, okay, well, getting into this, what do I have to be concerned about? What does the law say? What do I have to be concerned with in terms of the rights that I'm putting out there? And we're going to talk about a lot of that stuff today, Chantel.
Amazing. So this is actually kind of interesting because not unlike times past, we often see parallels happening between the adult entertainment industry and the mainstream industry. And I feel as though, I know that there's some still a little bit of dealings with the Screen Actors Guild strike, but wasn't that one big issue that they had, was especially with stunt performers, was what were the rights of the performers in terms of a little snippet is all that was needed, and then they could AI them into a full film without actually compensating the performers, protecting the performers, employing the performers. So it's kind of interesting because I feel like that's what you're describing when you're talking about performer rights and performer concerns within adult entertainment. So segueing a bit into performer issues, let's jump in right in with you, Elena. So just to get us started, do you consider yourself pro AI, anti AI? It's complicated, or something else? And why?
Well, yeah, I'll tell you what. I don't know if it's pro or anti. I think it is. It's like saying, are you pro car? And back in the late 1800s, are you pro car or are you pro horse and buggy? It's happening. It's here. It's already here. So, it's kind of like, do you want to stay, with your horse and buggy, or do you want to drive a car? If you want to stay with a horse and buggy, that's cool. There's still some people that do that. They're not watching this. But that's kind of where we're at. Corey understood. That's the Amish reference. But so it's here. I mean, anytime, and I can't say her name, but Alexis, anytime you say that, there's so many ways that it's already here. I've been doing some deep dives, and I've been watching, Neil deGrasse Tyson, famous astrophysicist, basically is kind of had that sentiment, and he's an optimist about it. And why? Because he sees it as a tool for good. But as many things that are tools for good, obviously there's kind of that pendulum shift. There's ways that this could be really, really bad. So trusted sources are going to be something, but I think obviously there's what we're doing. And for me, like Corey mentioned, my main concern is I have a brand. How do I protect that brand? How do I protect that brand from being used without my consent? So really, we're talking about consent and theft. That's my main concerns. Now, as a tool, what I see, I haven't started using it yet myself. I am talking to somebody, but I'm talking to a company. But what I see as a content creator that has fans all over the world, and I have like probably most content creators, I have a lot of international, I have a lot of fans that are, say, in India. Well, India, they can't, there's roadblocks to getting on. And I am also, full disclosure, I'm on Loyal Fans as well. But they can't get onto those platforms. Is there a platform that they can get onto that could create some sort of entertainment with my brand that obviously we're in business that I could monetize? I think so. And my main thing is always going to be, first of all, it has to stay on brand. It has to be consensual, my consent, not theft. And lastly, I want it to be entertaining, and it's a way of reaching masses, and it's a legacy. I mean, if it's done correctly, it's a legacy, and it's a fantasy entertainment that can reach millions of more people that I'm not able to reach right now.
So this is really interesting because it sounds like the pros and cons are kind of evenly balanced in many ways. Like concerns have to do with theft and having to do with consent, which those have been concerns with, I'd say, just about every piece of new technology that comes our way in the industry. People were concerned about consent and theft when it came to streaming, when it came to tube sites, when it came probably to DVDs, before that VHS. Like everybody, this is always the concern. And at the same time too, the pro accessibility, that's an amazing thing. And accessibility is great for all of those lovely, we want people to have access, we want people to be seen, we want people to be able to see all of those positive things. But then there's also the positive business aspects of accessibility. I mean, we want to be able to reach new markets, we want to be able to monetize. I know Steve, full of chagrin over there, saying nobody can monetize India. It's an illustrative example. I mean, who knows, right? There's all kinds of places and possibilities. So it's very interesting to think about that. Now, you said that you haven't already started using AI in your content creation and interactions with your fans and your customers. How come?
You know what? The company that I'm talking to takes what they're doing very seriously as far as building an authentic and a real AI bot, chat bot.
Mhm.
So that's important. It takes a lot of hours to build it correctly and to build it where it has guardrails so that they make it, and I never say nothing's impossible, but they make it impossible to do the the illegal stuff. I mean, these are all things that for my brand it's so important, because I have scammers pretending to be me right now that are scamming people all over the world, and I do what I can to fight against them. I use services, but ultimately if they use a different name, or whatever, there's way they're doing it. So that's already happening. They're using my name and my images to scam people. So for me, what's always going to be important, and this is one thing that's very important to me, is that anytime I use AI technology, me personally, I want it to be transparent. That if it's an Elena AI, it's an AI. I'm not fooling anyone. I'm not using them to sext. I'm not using them to do something pretending that it's me. For me, morally, I need to let them know this is entertainment. You are talking to an AI bot, just as I am a mom and I have a teenage kid. He's been using character AI, and he used it throughout the summer, and I'd hear him laughing and he'd be talking to fictional characters. And I finally got on there and I played with it. And of course I cringed out my kid because I was asking the Elvis, which I'm sure is not licensed, but I was using their Elvis character questions, and I was having a conversation. He's like, you can't ask it that. And I'm like, well, I am. But it was really interesting because I saw the potential, and I saw the potential. At some point, we're going to end up talking about synthetic versus real people. And I know that there are synthetic characters out there that are being created. I think at this point in my lifetime, there's always going to be a preference for an AI that's based on a real person. I think maybe eventually, maybe synthetic people will be more interesting. I don't know, but I won't be around by then. But right now, well,
I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe there'll be a synthetic version of you. That's right.
I don't know about Elena, but I'm planning on living forever. So I mean, that's.
Yeah, I'm not.
Same.
I'm
So-
not, but maybe my brand will, and she'll stay 56 instead of getting 80, which sometimes I feel like I'm getting closer to that. But my AI bot can stay a certain age, and my AI bot will be able to eventually do things that I would never do with my human body. I'm not going to have sex jumping out of a 10,000 foot tandem skydiving thing and naked, but you know what, maybe my AI would do that. I'm not going to. But you understand, like, the creativity is there, but it has to be consent. I have to be able to have some control over the consent.
Right. So it sounds to me like then the answer to the question is, it's not that it's that you're waiting for the correct tool that meets all of your needs. So thinking about correct tools, it sounds like there's a lot of different things that are brewing and developing. Let's take that concept of correct tools, building and developing, and think about business opportunities galore. So Mark, what do you think, given your long history in the industry, and then I realized that sounded like Elena just now talking about her 80-year-old bot or real person. you've seen the industry shift through many, many things, as have I, as have Corey. So, we've all been here for a while, but given your perspective, which is really unmatched, does AI seem like it's here to stay? Does it seem like a trend? What do you think about this in terms of a business opportunity and technology reshaping our community?
Great question, Chantel. Definitely here to stay. I mean, it's a technology that's obviously been in development for decades, so it's not going anywhere. Will it adopt in our space? The short answer is going to be yes. It's going to adopt in many facets. I mean, just a few to speak of. Yeah, the tool sets with AI are very interesting from a post-production standpoint. I could see studios taking advantage of potentially scaling some of their post-production um, processes, especially in the magnitude of video content that they produce, and also with the image content. So there's a lot of interesting aspects in that way. In regards to monetizing it, I mean, I saw a very interesting thing happen starting about 8, 10, maybe 12 months ago. I seem to be a somewhat of a little target out there for inquiries of people from outside of our space trying to penetrate within the space, and got lucky over the last several years to do some consulting gigs. And so I knew there was something coming when within a matter of 30, 60, 90 days, I was contacted by almost 6, 8, 10 different um, aspects of pitches of products, platforms, services, ideas, concepts, all dealing with AI. And so that did tell me that there is some penetration going on. Did a little bit of digging around and saw my good friend Steve over there building a nice little platform going into the chest of war stuff he's got. So yeah, so there's a lot of opportunity for many aspects of AI to, re-render content for lack of a better term, right? So content has a lifetime value, and content creators know that. And so AI is just potentially another aspect for the delivery of content. Some of my concerns that I see really center around the IP level, intellectual property level, of ownership of likeness when it comes to models. I've already been approached by at least one studio who is moving forward with pitching to performers, hey, and it was an interesting pitch. Hey, do you think any of your models would be interested in, we'll book them for a scene, but then we'll pay them an extra rate for a release of AI material. And my response was, hey, can you give me a call? I still haven't gotten that call yet. So I haven't even had that conversation, but I can tell you that's a hard no.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just a hard no. That's not where this is going to go in regards to what I have, reached to in potential, I guess, not control, but at least ability to protect some content creators, at least my roster, and make sure that they're not releasing their signature onto something that is very dangerous, to say the least.
That's
Where
terrifying.
Yeah, and a couple other concerns beyond that is also in the realm of, the imposters, the frauds out there. Elena touched base on it a little bit as she's witnessed herself of people being, perpetrated as herself. I get dozens and dozens and dozens of, emails, on a regular basis of people, claiming that one of my talent has frauded them of tens of thousands of dollars and jewelry and lavish items, and now they're bankrupt and they want to pursue criminal charges. And it's that, you know, that response that I give them that always gets them is, you're not talking to who you think you're talking to. I mean, that does not happen, right? They don't do that. So I mean, I've had one guy chase me for 4 or 5 years now, and I hear from him every 3 to 6 months, and he's complaining and tries to convince me that he's really talking to this talent who I've happened to know for at least 10, 12 years. So, you know, I know it's not her. So it's, you know, you add the element of AI into that, and it gets really scary as to what somebody could do in fraudulent manners. So yeah, so that's a little bit of what I see.
That's really interesting to think about, the idea of the scam potential. I mean, we're all familiar with the Instagram bot that somebody has bought many things from, thinking it is whomever, and it's not. But the up level of, I mean, this makes the whole, oh yes, let me buy your domain name for you and hold it for ransom for the next 15 years. That makes that, when you were describing about selling one's AI rights or likeness, that makes that the domain name scam sound like a little, like a fairy story that you would talk about, you know, like, oh, it used to be such a quaint little scam and now there's this. It is also interesting to think about the fans, because sometimes you know, we can go, oh, didn't you realize that you weren't talking to so and so over and over again? But as the technology becomes increasingly more refined and advanced, we might be less apt to go, come on there, silly goose, didn't you know that was that? Because some people may, you know, as it becomes more convincing, it might be a little less easy for a fan to discern who they're actually speaking to or communicating with. So the potential for scams is like a super big concern. So that's really interesting. But you have said that you are working on something specific. Can you share anything about what you have chosen to work on in the space?
Yeah, I'm just a little bit, you know, unfortunately we're still in development mode. So I don't really have much to share. I can kind of share the concept, you know, backtrack a little bit. So, you know, as I mentioned earlier, I was, reached out to a dozen times by people, and there was a young group of interesting developers who were working on um, a platform that was geared towards models monetizing their likeness for themselves in that manner, and being able to put a fan user in their own video scenario with that performer. And that's the basic concept of it. So from an AI standpoint, a user can kind of come up with their own version of how they want to spend their time with that AI version of the model, and then render out that scenario. Um, and it's all done in a again, like an OnlyFans rev share business model, where each performer would have their own, you know, portal, just like in, you know, all the content creator platforms, and be able to really monetize their likeness how they want, with their own restrictions. It would be completely protected in regards to do's and don'ts. And you know, a lot of questions came up in the very beginning that I had was, you know, what if they don't want to have, you know, sex in a church, for example. And so with AI and with the rendering aspect of it, you can be able to select or deselect various options in there that you will allow your likeness to be used as. So that's the basic concept of it. Again, I can't really go into too much. I'm more of a very passive participant at this point in time. I am involved in it. But until they, really develop something that I can get my hands on and drive myself before I, stamp my name of approval and go out and say, hey, let's run with this baby. We've got a little bit of groundwork to do. So they're still in development mode.
It sounds so interesting, and it also sounds like 2023, 2024, fuck a fan to me. I'm just gonna say it. That's what
Well,
it is.
you know what though? But
That's what I heard.
what it reminds me of, if anyone has watched the Steven Spielberg Ready Set Player, this is it. This is where we're headed. VR, where somebody can pretend that they're having sex with one of their favorite performers in a VR situation, whether that's a headset or glasses, or I'm not sure what the hardware is going to look like. That is the future. And why shouldn't it be? Like that, if it's with the consent of the performer, it's the natural, as far as I'm concerned, it's the natural evolution. So often sci-fi tells us what's in the future. And so much of sci-fi has shown us this having a reality and an alternative kind of, it's the next extension. I think what Mark is describing is the next extension. And as long as the guardrails are there so that you can say, no, Elena St. James will not have sex in a church. My AI will not. There's always going to be mistakes, but those are the type of things that you have to make sure you code. Something I want to bring up, Dr. Chantal, is with the scamming part of that is one of the reasons that I feel it's so important now for me to look at having a partner that I can trust, that I can work with to stake the ground in the new world. Because if you don't, my sense is then you're going to be out in the wilderness by yourself. If you have a partner that has a vested interest in protecting your brand, because it's also their money-making brand, you're going to have a lot more power to counter the scammers and the people that are trying to take and monetize your brand with this new technology.
So many issues and so many things, thinking about partnerships, guardrails, consent when it comes to what one's AI will and will not do. Let's segue into the person who knows all of the things about the guardrails, or at least how they're evolving. Corey, tell us about consent when we're talking about one's AI likeness. And in addition to doing that, can you tell us a bit about some of the biggest legal knots that are emerging right now? I'm looking over in the chat and I'm seeing everything from releases to what I saw something else back there. There's a whole bunch of stuff happening right now related to AI with specific legal guardrails. Tell us about it. What's happening?
I'll be honest with you. I was listening to Elena and Mark, and I really wanted to just keep listening to them because they were making so many really good points and so many good observations. But this right now, Chantal, is a little bit of the Wild West, because like everything, when we're first evolving into a new technology, the law is actually one of the slowest things to catch up to it. And there are major issues. And some of the areas to touch upon, Chantal, are that we have to talk about, okay, well, you have content producers that over the years have been they've been using model releases that had different types of language in there. A lot of the language that was in there was catch-all language. It basically said that the studio or the content creator could use the content in any way they see fit. And there's even technology provisions in there that specify select technology and then say, and any other technology that might be developed later on. So you have group one. Then, of course, you have group two, which is where people are saying, well, wait a second, that never existed back then. I don't care what the contract says. My AI rights are mine now to potentially sell, to potentially license, to potentially give out. And so what I'm now doing with all of my clients, whether they are a content producer or whether they're a content creator, doesn't matter which side of the on, is we're going back to the drawing board here. And when we're doing our content releases, we are specifically drafting out provisions that relate to what about AI? Because if you don't specify it in the contract, you are absolutely right, Chantel. There are going to be substantial questions later on. And I'm going to tell you right now, the last thing that you guys want is you want the courts trying to determine this case, especially when it comes to adult, because we already know how the courts are going to look at adult entertainment to begin with. So
Can you imagine?
Well, what you have to think about now is, you're hearing all these examples. I mean, Elena, for example, is obviously she's a rising superstar, and she as a content creator has massive things to be concerned about, because when she does a shoot with someone now, is she potentially giving up her legal rights so that someone could go and create 20 other videos with her in various different poses. For example, Elena gave the example of jumping out of an airplane sideways with a Batgirl outfit. It was a very descriptive example, and I didn't catch it all.
Batgirl can't fly, so it wouldn't be her, but
right. that's it. And so we have to be careful now. So if you're a content creator, you've got to be careful, and you got to think about this. You got to think about, okay, so if someone's paying me for one shoot and they're paying me X number of dollars, is that X number of dollars going to encompass everything they can do later on? Now, as a content creator, on the flip side, they need to be thinking about specifically AI rights. If they are in fact purchasing AI rights from a performer, what are we doing? Is it a one-time flat fee? Is it going to be some sort of royalty deal? And as we obviously know, royalty deals in adult are notoriously difficult to track because of piracy issues. And then we get into the whole piracy issue. We get into the issue of, are there going to be people out there that just aren't going to give a shit? They're going to go out there, they're going to take what videos they find and make AI models off of that. And I believe someone in the chat earlier mentioned that this is already becoming a substantial problem, and it is a problem. So these are major issues, Chantel, that are going to be popping up that everybody needs to be thinking about right from the start.
I was going to say, yes, somebody is going to do that. If they're not already doing that, people will begin to do that.
I'll tell you. I mean, Chantel, I was just at the European trade shows, and I'll tell you just an easy story. I was sitting at the bar, and an individual came up to me and he goes, Corey, you got to check out my new product. And I was like, all right, great. No problem. People show me their products all the time. And he gave me his phone and he said, here, I want you to text my friend Lisa. And I was like, what do you mean? I don't know who this is. What do you want me to say to her? He's like, I don't know. Tell her what you're into. I was like, I don't want to tell some person I don't know what I'm into. It's fucking weird. So he's like, no, just play along. So I was like, okay, whatever. I'm like, hi, Lisa. Lisa's like responding, what's your name? And well, I'm Corey. And she's like, oh, hey, Corey, what are you up to? I'm traveling for, work for the trade shows. Oh, that's awesome. What trade show? And the dialogue kept going. And I actually originally thought I was talking to a chatter. Like I thought it was, because frankly, it was so good that I really did legitimately think I was talking to a person. I didn't think I was actually talking to Lisa, but I was pretty certain that it was a real person. So then he said, all right, try this now. Start over, and I want you to put in exactly what you would want in a woman. And I'm like, you serious? He's like, yeah. And I put in a couple physical characteristics, and within 10 seconds, poof, picture shows up, exactly what I was looking for, hair color, build, height, the whole thing. And that was within 10 seconds. Now, if we're already getting to the point where this technology is there, what you really have to be thinking about, Chantel, is, now we have the two areas where we have not real people, i.e. AI that's being created, as Elena said earlier, I think she referred to it as synthetic, where you have something that isn't actually showing a real person, versus where there's pictures, video that are based off of a real person. And this is where you really got to start thinking. And so it doesn't matter what side you're on, whether you're a content producer or whether you're a creator, you have to keep this in mind, that all of this is now instant, and it's evolving fast. What I'm really surprised about, Chantel, and what I've seen And, I know there's a lot of people in the group that are listening today that are now in this area. I am actually stunned with how quick the programming, the coders, they are developing this so quick. Like, I used to think, when the next big thing, an adult came out, that it took forever. Tube sites, after it started becoming, it took forever to launch a tube site. 3D content took forever. Everything took forever. This seems to just be going fast, and people are getting faster and better to the point where, if you really can no longer tell the difference between a synthetic and a real person, now you also have to start worrying about the consumer experience and what you have to tell the consumer. Because if you disclose to a consumer, this is a real person, you're talking to a real person. This is similar to what happened with the dating sites.
I was going to say, this is just dating all over again.
I'm sure you guys remember with the dating sites and the fake profiles and the fake people that you were talking to, the FTC got involved, and the FTC started going after platforms for not disclosing to consumers that they were talking to a bot or they were talking to AI technology, to a chatter or what have you. Now, in this case, in AI, the question is, are we going to see that? Are we going to see consumers complaining to the FTC saying, hey, I thought I was talking to Lisa, the love of my life here. It wasn't. I apparently was just talking to some code. I feel cheated. I got robbed of X amount of dollars. I want my money. Are we going to see that stuff? Yep, we're going to see it. We are
probably.
Oh, it's coming.
Oh, it is. So we have a really good picture. Well, we have a very comprehensive picture of a lot of things that are happening right now. And I'm sure we have missed some things. There's all kinds of interesting stuff happening in the chat right now, including coders using AI to code. That's why it's so fast. Drew, I don't know how you know that, but that sounds exactly scary enough to be true, in my opinion. But let's think about, what should we be doing? Because I'm sure everybody who's here right now listening to this conversation wants to know, all this is great, but what do I do? So let's start with you, Mark. If you could just give some general advice, what would you say be best practices, wisest decisions from speaking from the perspective that you can speak of? What do you think people could do right now to embrace this car that's replacing the horse and buggy, but also do it wisely? What are your suggestions?
Great question. I mean, being a very conservative approach type person, my first advice is, do your homework. The AI technology is extremely broad and has tremendous use cases that we don't even know exist. Determine how it works for you. Determine how does artificial intelligence enhance your daily workflow? How does it provide you opportunities in what you're already doing? And how does it provide you opportunities in what you can do in the future with this technology? And then, do your homework, study it, and fall in love with YouTube.
Who isn't already in love with YouTube, though? All right. So, I mean, wise advice always is to do one's due diligence. Don't get like dazzled by something flash in the pan, or sell your AI rights because you think you're going to get a big paycheck all of a sudden, something like that. So, I too am a big advocate of the measured approach, always pumping the brakes a little bit. So I definitely hear what you have to say there. Definitely wise advice. Elena, what do you think right now are some key things people can actively be doing at this current moment with the circumstances that we're dealing with regarding AI?
First of all, I think it's, again, I'm old enough to remember when the internet was new and people are like, oh, where's the lost art of writing letters? It's just, it is, accept it. If you're, and also accept that there's a lot of people that are way smarter than I am that are saying like, no, okay, there are some really great things about AI. AI is not sentient yet. It might never be, but what it can do is collate information and give you kind of outcomes. I mean, they were talking about football for any of these guys that are on here, and that football plays are called much more accurately by an AI bot than they are by a real human coach, oftentimes. So you're going to be seeing this in a lot of entertainment. You're going to be seeing changes. So it's a tool. So there are many pitfalls as a performer, as a brand, as somebody that is on, the later stages of this world. I just need to, and I think all performers need to look at it, do their due diligence, look around. For me, I feel, for me personally, that I'm glad I'm more on the forefront, because I've been late to the party in a lot of different ways. I've been a late adapter. For me, I think it's important for me to partner with somebody that I trust. It's all calculated risk. Everything that we do is a calculated risk. But if you have somebody that you're working with, at least you've kind of got a team that they have a vested interest to protect yourself. And I have been so diligent about all the scammers and catfishers out there. You had mentioned that, it's going to be harder to discern. Well, there's a lot of things. I mean, like, look at, there's Hollywood actors that are going to have to worry about this, politicians that are going to have to worry about this. I've heard some thoughts of futurists that have said, this might be the end of the internet, because we're going to stop looking at all the information and just go to places that we really feel are trusted. It is a wild, wild west, as Corey mentioned. So I think, first of all, is get over your resistance to it and look at the positives. There are positives with cancer research that we can't even fathom, of looking at patterns that are going to decipher things that a human doctor couldn't decipher. There are really good things about this technology. So it's protecting your brand. As Mark mentioned, you don't sign over and, have a good lawyer. I know of one, he's on here, but, have, before you sign anything, before you sign anything, really make sure you run through it with your attorney, because it is your rights, and you certainly don't want to sign away the rights of your brand forever. This goes into what the Hollywood world is they're talking about. Tom Hanks was just recently interviewed, and he said, somebody asked, who's going to play you in your life story? And he said, probably nobody. Probably my AI is going to play me. And that's where we're at.
Oh, interesting. That's so very interesting. Corey, what do you think that people need to be doing right now?
I think people need to be doing a lot. The first thing that I think people really need to be doing is they have to identify what their biggest concerns are, because concerns for AI are going to be different for everybody. They're going to be different if you're a content creator. They're going to be different if you're a business operator. They're going to be different if you're, frankly, a website operator. One of the things we didn't really have a chance to touch on today, and it's one of the big issues that's going on, is frankly how many companies, and mainstream have already started doing this, are moving over to AI customer support. So, for example, I'm sure a lot of you, for those of you who travel a lot, now when you call the airline, they say, hey, please let us know if we can text you so that you can talk to our automated representative. This is all new stuff in terms of AI. And you really have to be thinking about, from point A to point Z, what are you doing with it? Number one, what are you doing with this technology? Number two, have you obtained the necessary rights from whoever it is that you're putting out there, whether it's a voice, whether it's an image, whether it's a video? Do you have those rights? Name and likeness. If there's anything that all of you are going to walk away from today's webinar with, is you're going to remember that name and likeness has a uncalculatable value, okay? And if you don't understand what rights you're giving up, and if you don't understand as a platform owner whether you're getting the right rights, I mean, this is the flip side of the coin, Chantel. There's a lot of people developing these products, and they're spending millions and millions of dollars, and they haven't thought about, well, okay, am I developing a product that's even going to be legal? Am I going to be able to get the necessary rights? Elena, I think, just mentioned the Tom Hanks thing. I saw that. There's been politicians that are, already going on TV and saying that, comparing it to Terminator 2 and the robots are going to take over and all that. I'm not quite as pessimistic.
Come on.
I'm not quite there with the robots taking over theory, but I am opening up my eyes and my ears to what's now happening is when my phone rings every day and people are like, okay, can I do this? And a lot of people, Chantel, are trying to push the envelope. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to be an entrepreneur. Some of the greatest, minds that have in technology have pushed the envelope in terms of things that might have been legal, illegal, ethical, not ethical. That's a whole other conversation. But what you have to do, and you have to think about who you're doing business with too. So we didn't really, hit it, but there's a whole other side to this in terms of credit card processing and banking. And are they going to work with these specific models? I know that some individuals, have already starting to have problems with, Visa and MasterCard saying, no, we don't like this that you're doing with AI. And, do you have a proper consent form? Does this constitute a proper consent form? Is that going to be a huge, thing that people have to think about? Absolutely. Because as everyone in this room knows, that ultimately none of you are going to be able to make any money without Visa and MasterCard. And so we're going to have to play by whatever crazy rules they come up with. And there already are some rules related to this. So you can't just ignore the fact that, you're going to have the issues of name and likeness. You're going to have the issues of processing. You're going to have the issues of, quite frankly, you're also going to have the issues of what's going to happen if you do something that crosses the line. Is social media going to go crazy and turn on you? Social media is like a uncontrollable wildfire, and it doesn't take much for someone to, blow on the flames, and all of a sudden people are talking about you like what you did is horrible, and they're trying to run you out of the business. Seen it. It's happened, and it will happen
all the time. We're coming up near our out of time point, but I, of course, have to add my 2 cents to all of this, which is the same gloom and doom point always that I make, which Corey actually touched on, is that no matter what happens, we are here in this space where there's no rules, even for Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks has no rules. And we, as a commercial sex media community, not only do we have no rules, but the rules are also going to be different for us and for everything that we do. So that is something that, even though it sucks and it's annoying and all of these things that we all get mad about all the time, all of that is true. The fact remains is that we also have to keep that in mind as we approach this new and evolving issue, that we are going to have a different set of rules from everybody else. We're going to have different standards, different things. I laughed when Corey said, oh, can you imagine going into a court talking about like the AI bot in some kind of porn adult content? That is enough to cause your average civilian's head to just melt down.
We're going to have to show and explain to a judge why Elena's video of jumping out of a plane dressed as Batgirl, hanging from a rope, what are all the other things that she said she was going to do.
Have sex with Chris Hemsworth. Let's just put that in there. His AI, not him. He's married.
All these things that she wants to do is going to be a question for, ultimately is a court going to have to decide, well,
can my AI be in that scene with you, Elena?
See?
I'm just saying.
Chantel, I'm telling you.
That's a good question, Chantel, and that's going to depend by what release Elena presents to you, and specifically what it is that's in there as to what she can do. And you're going to have to be more specific. General releases.
So to the point, the rules are different and we have to think about it. We are about out of time. Mark, if people want to find you, where can they find you?
Mark at atmla.com.
Amazing. The best, the most wonderful, the best always, Mark Schechter. Thank you so much for being here. Elena, if people want to find you, where can they find you?
ElenaSt.James.com or onlyelena.com. Sometimes that's easier because my name is spelled a little bit different, ELAINA, but ElenaSt.James.com.
And is there a period after your saint sometimes? Do you
No,
not?
there's
No?
not on my domain. There is not on my
I
domain.
know, I
Yes.
know, but remember our question. That's just so funny.
Mhm.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
here. And Corey, if people need you, how can they find you?
Yes, if anybody wants to find me, real simple, you can go to my website, My Adult Attorney. You can also find me on Twitter, which is, again, at My Adult Attorney. If you want to email me, you can email me, and I'll put my email for any of you that want to, talk to me or whatever, but it's Corey@silversteinlegal.com. If you have any trouble, spelling it, whatever, go to my website or go on Twitter or wherever else. But what I do want to do is I do want to thank personally. I want to thank Mark and for being here today. His invaluable experience in the industry is incredible. I can't thank him enough for doing this. Elena, words can't describe how the level of your shooting star you got going on over there, and everyone really appreciates your time and I really appreciate everything you've contributed today. Of course, I got to thank Chantel for being the greatest moderator in the history of ever, because she's able to keep me under control, which is one hell of a job. But I promise you guys that this will not be the last of these. We are going to do more of them. And so always, feel free, if you guys have any requests for what legal impact series you want to see, feel free to reach out to me. You can reach out to Chantel. Chantel, how do they find you? Isn't it like Dr. Chantel at something or something?
You
guys are so close.
You go with Dr. Chantel at something.com. But last but not least, I want to thank all of you that are here, that you guys came to listen today. I really appreciate it. I know a lot of you had a lot and wanted to say and couldn't because you were muted, Steve Lightspeed and Colin. But we actually really
Thank
appreciate
the
it.
sweet baby Jesus. We love you
And
both, but no, muted.
I actually love the fact that you guys are here supporting this, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to get you guys thinking of things. That's what for the four of us that are here speaking today, we're trying to get your mind going to thinking of these issues. If we accomplish that goal, then hey, then we won. So thank you all a million times over, and we'll see you again soon.